tremendous kind of compliment to her and a great step forward for Native American writers. Of course, you all know the poet Joy Arjo, and she is the 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States, which is a great honor, I think, also. And Scott Momaday, who won the Pulitzer Prize for his novel, The Snowy Mountain, I think it is. Is that it?
The Way to Rainy Mountain.
Rainy Mountain, The Way to Rainy Mountain. And Scott is a Kiowa from Oklahoma. But I just want to mention a couple other playwrights that I've had an opportunity to meet and to work with. One is Thompson Highway. He wrote one very, very famous play called The Red Sisters. And I'm very happy that I had an opportunity to be in the play downtown at the New York Theater Club. And then he wrote another play. The Red Sisters is about a group of women on the way to a bingo game. And it talks about all of their different kinds of conversations and everything else. And then he did another play about men going to another gambling kind of occasion. And I was very happy, I didn't realize this, but very happy that I also had a part in that play. So I did two of these plays. Hane Gigama, who's a Kiowa playwright. I'm very happy to say that I had an opportunity to do one of his plays called Grandpa and Grandma. Sherman Alexie's, you've probably heard of him, very famous poet and writer. And I'm very happy to say that he is a person who wrote a movie called Smoke Signals. And it's one of the first movies ever that was written by a Native American, with all Native American actors. I believe it had a Native American director also. So it's really, if you haven't had a chance to see Smoke Signals, it's really, really a fantastic movie. And it has a great story to go with it. I think you'd be very surprised about the story itself. But I think that just to give you an idea of some of the things that are going on, and right here in New York City, we have the Spider Woman Theater Company. This is directed by Miriam Miguel, and she's doing Native American plays that are written by Native American actors and playwrights. And we also have a group called Amarinda, and that's directed by Diane Freer, and she is also from Oklahoma. I'm not sure, is she Kiowa?
No.
Do you know what tribe she is?
No.
Yeah, I think she may be Osage, but she's bringing Native American writers, playwrights, and having their plays produced here in New York City. So she's doing a lot. So there's a great deal going on today with Native American writers. I think that's important to understand, because a lot of times you think about Native people, you think, oh, they just do dances, they just sing, but they're also writers, playwrights, and doing some really, really very exciting things today. But, as I said before, this was our first venture into this kind of gathering. So we asked anyone who wanted to read something in the country. They actually have the reservation in 4 states: New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. They're the largest reservation in the country. Now, I'm not sure, I think they're probably the largest tribe today also, the most number. But here again, I think this is a really beautiful song that they sing. This is called the Navajo Mountain Chant. In beauty may you walk, all day long may you walk. To the returning seasons may you walk. With grasshoppers about your feet may you walk. With dew about your feet may you walk. With beauty may you walk. With beauty before you may you walk. With beauty behind you may you walk. With beauty below you may you walk. With beauty all around you may you walk. In old age, wandering on a trail of beauty, lively may you walk. In old age, wandering on a trail of beauty, lively again may you walk. It is finished in beauty. I think that's really a beautiful song when they sing this. They call us a mountain camp. And this is, I think, one of the nicer pieces. We have another member of the group coming today, hopefully. She's usually not punctual, I should say that. But I'm going to let her also talk to you about some of the songs that she's familiar. She's from the Santo Domingo Taylor Pueblo tribe. And I'd like her to explain one of the songs that they have, which I think is also a very beautiful song that's used for the dances. But we talk about words, we're talking about poems, we're talking about novels, we're talking about plays. And I'd like to read a poem for you, which is one that was written by a very good friend of mine. He was part Ojibwe. And I'm very, very honored to have this poem because it was a poem that he wrote in honor of my 80th birthday. And I was just really so happy that he wrote this for me. I just want to give a little background into the poem itself. He and another friend of ours, we traveled out into the Southwest many, many times. And the Southwest, as I was just talking to another member of the church here about New Mexico and Arizona. If you haven't had a chance to travel out to that part of the country, you must do it. It's a very, very, very beautiful part of the United States. New Mexico, Arizona, the Grand Canyon, Monument Valley, all of these places, and including many of the pueblos, the Native American pueblos of this area. They're all very beautiful, and some of them are very, very old. I believe Old Riding, one of the Hopi villages, is the longest inhabited village in the United States. People are still living there, but it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. But just the area, I mean, just Arizona is, even if it's a desert, it's a beautiful place. But anyhow, we made trips out there many years, and one of the things I think is so beautiful about the Southwest is not just the land, but the sky. The sky is something else. It's not like here in the East. Out there, the sky is something very, very different. But all those things he's trying to get into, or thought about as he's writing this poem. And there's also something else that's kind of interesting. There's a plant, and they say that it only blooms once every 100 years, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not happening around that long to test, but anyhow, that's something else that he was kind of talking about in the poem. But this is a poem by.
What's the name of the plant?
Excuse me?
What plant? What is the name of it? Of the plant?
Al, do you remember the name of the plant? Is it a cactus?
Yeah.
I think it's a cactus.
Thank you.
We're out hunting for nectar with the hummingbirds and buffalo again. Up in the sky, tumbling over one another with our imperfect grace. It's more challenging to be a cloud than we thought. This constant shift of wind, the blazing sun in an arc, disintegrating and reshaping us, spread out across the blue sky. That's the color, isn't it? What you call blue? We call it distance, contradiction, infinite. Nothing unfolding into other nothings. Or, think of it this way. You carry me in your pocket forever. A collapsible universe where you look into yourself, only here with us, amidst the clouds. There is no self, no mirror, no here. Distance, contradiction, infinite, today. Do you believe in today? We're traveling to Hopi, Shiprock, Chaco, Jemez tomorrow. Do you believe in tomorrow? Santo Domingo, Yaqui, Santa Fe, towers look up. These are some of the impressions that he had about going out to the Southwest. Now, we talk about native writing. We're also talking about hovering, wild bees singing in and out, over black thunder hanging, over all downpouring rain. And here is something else I think that a lot of people don't think about. Among the Hopi people and among the people out in the Southwest, they say rain means life, and it does. Because they live out in the desert, it's something that they are constantly aware of.
Taino, Arawak, Mexica, Locano, hospitality. Would we have done it again the same way? If we had the chance now, 400 years later, welcome strangers to share Creator's Island home, hammocks and longhouse. Hammock, Taino word. So's hurricane. I know. Doesn't sound sick to say. I think so. There was never a stranger at Grandmommy's table. Even now, she and my mommy will give the clothes off their back if anyone gives her a compliment. You know, wow, that's beautiful. It was just in her, in us, for ages and ages. Can't do that in New York City. You go naked. Always on the take. Okay, that's it.
Beautiful imagery. I'm sorry, Mónica, would you?
Yeah.
She is a writer, a poet.
Yes.
She just happened to say she would like to read.
Sure.
Well,
And-
I can read in Spanish and you help me in English, okay?
All right, I will.
Got it.
Indeed, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right.
I like the idea because you know how important is the translate the words, okay, and the accent. I like I read the poems in Spanish and then
Okay.
they help me in English. Okay.
Mhm.
En Spanish. Fisuras. Desplazado de su lugar, ignorado, en cierto momento un anciano disfrazado de espantapájaros apresuró sus pasos sobre unas baldosas sueltas. Huyó de su encierro interior, dejando en el inodoro de la memoria de los otros oculto el rencor, la violencia. Tomando impulso se elevó girando y con pausa hizo coincidir su melodía patológica, resonando el canto suave de sus cuerdas envejecidas. En masa, los humanos almuerzan del fruto de esponjosos árboles carcomidos, donde los recuerdos ya no explotan, las imágenes no las encienden, se difuminaron del calendario, ya nada hierve en su mirada, en tanto hábil la enfermedad lo araña, corroe su centro, mientras su raíz intacta se aferra a la vida. Gravitación. Contraída por la gravedad de otro tiempo, congelada por el reflejo de otra verdad, desde ese escondrijo reflexiono. La realidad que veo es irreal, pero es real porque la siento, está ahí. No obstante, ¿cómo atravesar esa dimensión que sobrecoge, absorbe, lastima? Implosión de emociones. Me adentro en esta existencia desmembrada, entre cuerpos huérfanos que yacen desvalidos, inertes, mutilados. ¿Cómo volver a mi realidad?
This is it. Gravity. Contracted by the gravity of another time, frozen by the reflection of another truth from this hideout. Reflect. The reality I see is unreal. It's real though, because I feel it. It's there. Nevertheless, how to cross that dimension? that scares, absorbs, hurts, an implosion of emotions. I tap into this dismembered existence among orphaned bodies lying derelict, inert, mutilate. How to come back to my reality. Translation by Antonio Nazaro. Excellent, thank you, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much. But I
You.
like
That's wonderful.
Can I say something? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Oh my God. This is how the spirit moves. Thank
This is
you.
Aracelis Figueroa.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you for that. And I gather this, our friends from the Lenape.
Lenape.
No, these are our friends from the.
Oh, yes, you have.
Oh, I just came back from, let me see if I can say it, the Mohawk, the Aquanaski.
Akwesasne?
Akwesasne. I was with the Poor People's Campaign, New York State van tour. We call it Freedom School Van Tour. We go to other parts of New York, poor, because we want to really learn about poverty in New York. So we went to the North Country, and we went to Potsdam. Never hear of it. And we were there for like 3 days. We went to Potsdam. Next day we went to the Aquanaski. Then we went to Troy, New York. We went to the John Brown farm. Learn about John Brown. We went to Troy, New York, and learn more about the Harry Truman and when they held this slave male that was captured. He was amazing. Then we ended up in Albany delivering the petition that I hope some of you signed.
Right.
The petition that we write for the governor. But being in that nation, being with these people, that was just so amazing. They told us that the name means, people say that the name means I love you, but it's really like I wipe you in my medicine. That would be the name. So we were in this beautiful room when they have those pictures from the mother, the woman who created the world, the solitary, it's 100% Christ, I think. But that was a very transformative experience. Especially after being in that room full of love, that when we went to deliver the petition in Albany, we were in the war room, right? Because they call it the war room, that room that is next to the governor's office. So I just wanted to share that. And when we were in Aquasasne, Mama Bear blessed mine. I told her to bless mine because this belongs also to, this comes from Guatemala, from the indigenous from Guatemala. So I asked her to bless mine. And Mama Bear is like the leader of the group. When we were there, these songs came to me because it's a poem from Pablo Neruda, and that he wrote. The poem is long, but the piece that we put music, it said basically, excuse me if I tell you this craziness in this beautiful afternoon, and if my heart goes singing to Santo Domingo. Spanish conquistadores came from Spain with nothing, and they were looking for gold so bad, like if they will serve for food. And raising Christ with the Christ, raising Christ with his cross, the beating were such a strong argument that the indigenous alive get converted to the Christian. Even though that was century for this long story, I tell to you because it's sad. because things will never change with oblivious outside it. So when we were there, I sang this song in Spanish. Most people don't know what I was singing. But the Spirit to move, people start crying, and we create such a beautiful space. So the song said like this. Perdonen si les digo unas locuras en esta dulce tarde de febrero, y triste va mi corazón cantando hacia Santo Domingo, compañeros, unos conquistadores españoles que de España llegaron con lo opuesto, buscaban oro y lo buscaban tanto como si les sirviese de alimento, enarbolando a Cristo con su cruz. Los garrotazos fueron argumentos tan poderosos que los indios vivos se convirtieron en cristianos muertos. Aunque hacen siglos de esta historia amarga, por amarga y por vieja se las cuento, porque las cosas no se acaban nunca, con el olvido ni con el silencio. Perdonen si les digo unas locuras en esta dulce tarde de febrero, y triste va mi corazón cantando hacia Santo Domingo, compañero.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Hello, I am Jim Fairbanks, and after such beautiful cultural expressions, I just have a different tack. And this is about a book I read called Indigenous Continent, The Epic Contest for North America by Pekka Amalinen. We can thank Amalinen for his critical race theory. In American history books, the indigenous are given only a few quick pages of the 500-year history with the European colonizers. Hardly enough time to tell the whole woke story that Amalinen gives us in his detailed tome of the hundreds of indigenous nations and the thousands of years of indigenous culture where the white European colonizing cultures of the Dutch, English, Spanish, French, and Russian stole the land. Amalinen tells that history in depth. Amalinen goes in such depth, which is why my Saving Justice newsletter is not the usual one-pager, but goes 3 pages. And you can always throw tomatoes if I go on too long. My ancestors, Fairbankses, were Puritans. So we built in 1636 the oldest colonial house that still stands in the United States today, now the Fairbanks Museum. Yet when I visited the Fairbanks house, nobody told me about our genocidal Pequot War. After 1636, when we built our colonial house, the Pequot War of 1637 exposed Native Americans within and around New England to genocidal violence. Today we worry about COVID. Yet we have scarce memory of the European colonizers' diseases of smallpox, measles, tuberculosis, dysentery, and influenza. Just two of Somaliland's examples. In 1633, as if God wanted the English to persevere, an unusually violent smallpox epidemic devastated the immunologically defenseless Indians around New England. More than 50% of the Native Americans in the region died. The powerful Bicoas lost 4,000 people. To the English, this was a divine intervention. And then another example, a Spanish epidemic broke out along the Rio Grande, killing some 20,000 Pueblos. When my family moved to Florida, I was taught in school that the great hero, General President Andrew Jackson, who became a national hero by leading a military campaign against the Seminoles. Yet I was not told about the Africans who fled slavery and joined the Seminoles, who were not defeated by the U.S. military and ultimately survived as a nation. Today in my New York City home, I may teach about the supposedly ancient history of the 41-mile aqueduct built in the 1840s to bring fresh water to the Bronx and Manhattan after U.S. industry had poisoned the wells. But now I think more about the water, the lands, and the culture of the Lenape of several thousand years. Amalian recounts 300 broken trees. Yet still today, we do not even think about a plan for white reparations. Amalian tells the story of manifest destiny, the fever infecting such an unbelievable number of white colonists that caused the displacement of the indigenous for land and gold, such as in the Lakota Black Hills and the California Gold Rush. More than 400,000 English migrated to North America and the West Indies during just the 17th century. By the 1790s, the number of English colonists reached nearly 600,000. Throughout American history, there doesn't seem to be any historical guilt of the genocide on the part of whites. After all, the Declaration of Independence in 1776 labeled Native Americans as merciless Indian savages. Declaration of Independence. And long ago, the European Emperor Henry VII granted Cabot and his sons all the mainlands, islands, towns, cities, castles, and other places whatsoever discovered by them. What I found most remarkable is the resistance of the indigenous and the control they maintained over the Europeans for centuries. The book cover summary states that a sovereign world of native nations dominated the continent for centuries after the first Europeans arrived. By 1776, various colonial powers claimed nearly all of the continent, but indigenous people still controlled the continent. By the early 18th century, although Europeans had planted themselves on the eastern seaboard and along several major rivers from the St. Lawrence to the Rio Grande, Native Americans controlled 90% of the land of the continent, including most of the lands claimed by the British, French, Spanish empires, having fought several wars to keep those colonial powers at arm's length. The Iroquois nations had fought one another for generations, but in the late 15th century, they formed the Great League of Peace and Power, a ritual and spiritual compact that put an end to the bloodshed against one another. The Iroquois numbered between 20 and 30,000 in the 15th century, and the Dutch had long ago accepted their subordinate role in the shadow of the Iroquois. Around 1680, the five nations Iroquois were now the dominating nation in the great interior. You may be surprised to learn that so overwhelming was indigenous sea power that it kept much of the Atlantic coast free of colonial bases for decades. At first, the Dutch and French treated Indians as trading partners. The 1710 French model, embracing the Indians as trading powers, trading partners, military allies, and even kin. The populous English colony, however, still relied on raw military power, fighting, dispossessing, and killing Indians. I was taught the myth that white European powers did not practice slavery with the indigenous, But Himalayan tells us that countless Indians were shipped into slavery in the West Indies, while African slaves were brought to New England to clear forests and improve the land. As many as 50,000 southern Indians may have been enslaved. Many of them were shipped to Caribbean slave islands, while others sold to planters on the eastern seaboard, where they labored in rice and tobacco fields alongside African slaves. In 1630, Spanish governors of New Mexico issued permits to take Indian boys and girls from the pueblos on the pretext that they were orphans, and made them to serve permanently in houses of Spaniards where they remained as slaves. The history of the boarding schools. The Puritan minister Roger Williams previously had welcomed Indians into his home and learned their language. But the Narragansetts thought that God was now with them and had abandoned the English because they had killed so many Indians. Not long after, Roger Williams began promoting the sale of Providence's Indian captives into slavery. President John Quincy Adams proposed a benevolent colonization of Native Americans and African Americans to overseas. Am I getting too long? Last page. Reservations. In the early 19th century, there were 123,000 indigenous between the Mississippi and the Appalachians. The colonizers considered this land to be better used for king cotton. The Cherokees, Chickasaws, Choctaws, and Muskogees owned the most fertile land on the continent. Georgia began the removal of the indigenous from the state, but Supreme Court Justice John Marshall ruled that it was unconstitutional for Georgia to expel them because the sovereignty of Cherokees was protected by U.S. treaty. However, Jackson became president in 1829, and Jackson simply ignored Chief Justice Marshall's ruling. Jackson got Congress to pass the Indian Removal Act, which only passed by Congress by a vote of 102 to 97, based on the extant 3/5 vote of southern slave states. Spirituality of the Pueblos. The Pueblos were guided by Latico, Corn Mother, and the Kachinas, ancestral cloud spirits who visited them. With the 1680 Pueblo insurrection, churches were to be demolished, the bells were to be shattered, and images of Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary were to be destroyed. The Indian Office criminalized the sun dance in 1882, creating a giant spiritual void in numerous native nations. In the winter of 1889 to 90, the Lakotas started to dance the ghost dance, desperate to bring back the bison and their dead relatives. Resistance. The history of North America emerges as a single story of resolute resistance that kept much of the continent indigenous for generations. In the 1890s, the number of remaining Indians was 250,000, a terrifying low figure that reveals the enormity of U.S. genocidal campaigns. American expansion had diminished North America's indigenous population by 70%. Warfare and genocide. Since the U.S. founding in 1776, there have been more than 1,600 official military engagements with Native Americans. The last indigenous victories were delivered by the Seminoles and self-liberated African slaves who attacked the U.S. troops in Spanish Florida to survive as an offset to American slave rights, planters, and land speculators. Then in 1868, Red Cloud, a Lakota military leader, had become a diplomat advocating for peace. At the White House, he observed the gargantuan bureaucratic and military of the post-Civil War U.S. Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, leaders of the Lakotas, refrained from war, hoping to buy time and adapt to the inevitable molding of Lakota and American worlds. Geronimo finally surrendered in 1886, in the last military engagement between the U.S. and North American indigenous people was over. I felt a lasting grief when I visited the stark, confined jail of Geronimo, where he died at Fort Pickens in Pensacola. Better felt was the statue of Crazy Horse in South Dakota, far overshadowing the smaller Mount Rushmore, telling the everlasting sweeping history of the American indigenous. And finally, a footnote, please consider subscribing to the daily Native News online. Another recent book is Claudio Sant's Unworthy Republic, the Dispossession of Native Americans and the Road to Indian Territory. To get my summary of that, please email me. So I'm sorry I just changed such a beautiful cultural expressions that people were giving, but as a WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant with deep history and slaughter of Indians in my native Massachusetts, I have to deal with my history, and it will take forever to do that. I'm peeling the many layers of my history is ridiculous. So we must do it. Thank you.
So happy that my good friend Matoaka arrived. I just want to say a little bit about Matoaka. She's from the Santa Domingo Tewa tribe, also from the Chickahominy tribe from Virginia, and the Apache tribe from Arizona. And we had an opportunity yesterday to go upstate to a place near Kingston to attend a concert she gave, where she did storytelling and music with a harp. And it was something that was really very exciting to see, and I'm hoping that we can get her and a good friend at the harp to come here to show us and perform for us. But she's here today, and she said she'd be very happy to share with us some of the stories, songs, whatever that go along with Native American expressions. So, Matoaka.
Okay. This is a surprise. Hi, good. Well, I was so happy when Louie and Al showed up yesterday at the Olive Free Library, which is in West Shokan, which is not far from the Ashokan Reservoir and not far from Woodstock. And my friend Julia Howell Haynes, who is an exquisite harpist, we combined our music. She has been inspired by Native spirituality, and one of the big, long, it was a long piece. It was called Words Before All Else. And it's also called, by the Haudenosaunee, it's called the Opening Address, or the Thanksgiving Address. And what the Thanksgiving Address does is, when people gather, the Thanksgiving Address gives them the opportunity to be of one mind. And so the speaker says to the people, now let us think about the grasses. And the speaker talks about the grasses and how they cover the earth, and they give the earth clothing and beauty, and the flowers and the herbs, the medicinal herbs, and the berries. The strawberry is the king of the berries. In this Thanksgiving address, it goes from that level all the way up to the maple trees, the king of the trees. It goes to the birds and the waters, the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything. And yesterday, Julia, she played her song, which she calls Words Before All Others, or just gratitude. And so she played the harp and sang her words, and I interlaced like the song from the Thunder Dance, which is so beautiful. The song to the thunder dance speaks about the clouds and the rain and the thunder and the blessings that it brings. And I will just do the intro song to the thunder dance and explain it to all of you. And this is, during her song, we would kind of take turns. We improvised, so we really had to listen to each other to know when to let the other person speak. But she played harp behind all of it.
Oh my God.
And so I explained to the people about where she had gotten her inspiration about the Thanksgiving address, and that I was going to sing phrases from the Thunder Dance, and that they could follow along. I wouldn't be speaking the same words that she was saying, but I would be talking about all of the blessings, and it would go along with what she was saying. So I started out by saying, in this song, you'll hear Elo, which means clouds. Elo, do, awisho, seito. In that song, means the breath of the Creator that He gave to all of us. Awisho, seito, meaning way beyond the clouds, the Creator sits. Awisho, seito. And the Creator used His breath, He brought it down for everyone and everything so that we would know our names. He named us. He gave us names so that we would know who we are and what our purpose is. So it's Elo, do, awisho, seito, sawaki, hunawa, huwana me, huna ana ian ni. His breath came down for everyone, everything. He named everything and everyone. And He named me. And I have to start again because I just can't break it up. Elo, do, awisho, seito, sawaki, hunawa, hoa, me, huna, ana, iani, the way, wakshia, da jole ani, that is what the old ones say. The way, wakshia. The breath is for everyone and it's everywhere. Da jule ane, in the clouds, that's where the raindrops live. And this song is about a dancer who had asked for the power to go up to the clouds, to ask those raindrops to come back down to the earth, Benawacha, to be planted with the seeds so the people would be happy. Starting again, so you can follow. Elo, do, Amisho, Sendo, Salwaki, Hunam, Hoa, Name, Huna, Asana, Iani, Hathaway, Wamshia, Jule, Ani, yeah, hey, in the clouds. Ooh, elo, elo, ya, ha, elo, ya, ha, hey, 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 okay.
Okay, now, come to another part of our program today. One of the members of our group is a playwright, an actor, and a dancer. And as I was talking before about art, I said these kinds of things, they don't have just categories. We all sing, we all dance, we all do these things. So I think it's kind of a combination of all of these things together. But this young man, he's from the Kiowa tribe, and he has something to share with you, and hopefully some things that you can participate in today. So let's welcome Matt Cross.
Hello, and thank you all for coming. So basically, whenever I am asked to present work, I often get the question of how does the process work? How does someone write? And the answer is very simple. Writing is just written down communication. If you want to communicate something, you must have something to say. If you don't have anything to say, it's going to be very difficult to communicate anything. So, with that in mind, I do have some scripts here, and could I please have Marie, Matoaka, Louie, and Jeremiah join us?
I'm not tap dancing. Okay.
And there is one more role that comes in later, but we'll just go ahead and say what roles we'll be taking.
Yes.
So, you want to be Harold?
No, I'm only kidding.
Don't be shy now, come on.
No, I don't know. Who do you want?
Name a name.
Name it.
Well, okay, I'll be Harold.
All right, we got a Harold.
Harold.
So,
Harold. I'll be Roland.
we have Harold and Roland. So,
I guess I'm Dustin.
we have
Paul.
Paul. Great.
Okay.
And the stage directions read, lights up.
Hey now, what's this?
How should I know? I'm seeing this in real time with you.
Hey, well, I am glad that you're all here. This is our newest member here on the drum with us. Everyone, please say hello to Dustin.
Hi, it's nice to meet you all.
Bit of silence, but nobody looks upset.
Hey there, Dustin. I'm Paul. And this is Roland. And the other member, Chris, should be here before too long.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to come here and join you at the drum.
Great to have you.
Great. Great, because for a moment I was worried that I did something wrong or like violated a drum rule.
No, it's a normal drum, just like any other.
Cool. I didn't know if there was like assigned seating or something.
Well,
No, this is not an assigned seating drum. We are all free to sit wherever we want on a sort of first come, first sit basis.
Well, yeah, but there is a kind of way that we do things.
Oh, well, I don't want to be rude or anything like that, but how do you do things around here?
Well, I would say that we do the things we do in the way that we do them around here.
Great.
yes, but what does that really mean?
Well, here we go.
No, I think that Roland has a point.
Oh, is Roland making a point? Give me a sec to sit down before you get started.
You made it.
We were about to send out a search party.
Well, I managed to get here right at the good part.
Okay, it's just, come on, we all really get it, right?
It would still be helpful for you to just say what's on your mind.
Well, we don't have assigned seating per se, but we do have a seating arrangement that we have grown attached to over time.
The times they are changing.
Oh, well, I wouldn't want to be disrupting the rhythm or anything.
Oh, Roland just doesn't like to change anything ever.
Oh, so what are we doing this now then?
Well, you don't have to say it like that, but I guess we should start talking about what makes our drum different from the other drums.
So am I on your spot or what?
I mean, not exactly per se, but
There's usually a bud.
I normally sit on that part of the drum.
Right, but Roland, we still technically don't have assigned seating.
And I'm not saying that we should have assigned seating. I don't think anyone here is saying that. Well, we don't want to go around and mess with things too much. But
There it is again. What is with you and us?
it's important for us to agree on things like this.
I agree with you, but I feel like this is a pretty unique case. I mean, it isn't like we have ever brought up seating before.
No, but there is definitely an elephant in the room.
Elephant or a chicken?
Chicken. What are you talking about?
Drumstick? Chicken drumstick? Whatever, it's fine. I'll fix it in post.
Kind of funny.
Oh, I get you now. Well, yes, I guess that the drumstick situation is definitely a thing.
Oh, it's a thing now, is it?
What's a thing?
Oh, everybody brings their own drumstick, so there's no real standardization.
Which would be fine, except Roland here uses a huge one that sometimes slows you down when we're playing.
Well, it makes it where you can really hear it.
Well, that's part of the problem, technically.
Oh, sure, that's the only issue, mister. Breaks a stick every third practice.
Where are you breaking drumsticks?
Well, Chris makes his own drumsticks, but I do have to agree with Paul in that you do really just beat the hell out of the drum. Honestly, it is a bit impressive since you usually use a bit of a small drumstick.
You gotta get that good wrist action going, huh?
Well, with all us having such disparaging drumstick lengths, we look like cell phone signal bars.
Well, that's what happens whenever you get people working together. The differences are what really kind of make it.
Well, make sure that those differences have some kind of reason to them.
So, wait, am I on someone's seat? Or what are we talking about exactly?
We're just talking about different styles.
What are you talking about? We only sing one style.
I meant with more like personality styles.
I have been working on my singing now. I figure if I can choke myself a tiny bit, I can hit some of those way high up notes.
Well, don't hurt yourself now, but we'll need all hands on deck for the regional drumming competition.
But doing our style for that, right?
Make sure to bring a broom and a dustpan.
Why would you do that?
Well, it might have something to do with all the extra traditional seasoning.
Now hang on. You said that you were fine with me doing that.
Now, I wanted to say something about that. The laying down tobacco isn't something that you do all the time. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with it if you had a reason why you were doing it and did it consistently.
Well, I think that we could all use a little consistency.
Well, do you have a reason why you do it?
Yes, I do have a reason that my teacher taught me.
Okay, but why do you not do it every time?
Because we don't need it every time.
Well, I think that if we don't do it every time, then we shouldn't do it to begin with.
Well, I don't think that we have to necessarily go that far. Maybe we could just do it for the bigger shows.
No, I understand what Harold is saying. Exactly what would we determine as a quote, unquote, bigger show? We have to be careful with the precedents that we set.
I mean, I guess we could decide it by square footage, but then there's the potential of a big crowd in a small space.
Well, regardless, the base rate for performances still stands.
Unless day money is involved.
Well, sometimes day money might not be sufficient, and not everyone pays day money.
Especially not people that use the powwow, that use the word powwow to refer to a business meeting that doesn't even have fry bread.
Oh, it's been a while since I've had good fried bread. Who was it with the truck? The truck.
Person with the truck could be a little more specific. Could you be a little more specific?
You mean a fry bread or Indian taco truck?
Yeah, the one with the taco truck.
Oh, what was their name? I haven't had their food in years.
Oh, I think I remember who you're talking about. The one with the wooden sign, right?
Yeah, oops, the painted one.
Ida Wellston? Wellesley?
They all sit in silence thinking. Well, should we get to practice?
I suppose, after all, we did pay for this time.
Dustin, do you have any questions?
Just two related questions, really. Am I in someone's seat? And are there assigned seats?
Blackout.
Oh, wonderful.
There you go.
That sounds like the Thunderbird rehearsal.
There you go.
One time you said, "Come on, you're professionals here." Everyone was bouncing around with different ideas. That's great.
Okay.
Could I just say, well, maybe we should explain a little bit about what that was all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, what that was, is you might be wondering, what was I trying to communicate? Number one, trying to make comedy. I've heard a lot of works by and about Native Americans and Native American history that tends to be a bit on the tragic side.
Yeah.
This is something I feel is a very real danger that must be combated. For if we are to forever synonymize Native Americans with tragedy, then how are we to ever move on? So, as such, everything I write is usually a comedy. It's not that I don't write dramas, it's just I find it much easier to write comedies that have something poignant to say in them, rather than try to force comedy into a drama.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
The other part of this is I was trying to give myself a challenge with only 5 characters in a single non-specific location, and I believe I only gave myself about 4 hours to write it, from concept to end of writing. which is also something I believe is very important, because if you are to be a working professional, then you have to show that you can do the workload of a working professional.
Lou, do you want to explain to the people a little bit about drum and drum etiquette, so they really understand what we were talking
I
about?
like this. I like this.
Well, it is kind of interesting. I thought the idea of, is there a sign singing at the drum? When we get together for singing at the drum, first of all, we're talking about one of the large drums, the big drums that they play at the powwows. There are a couple of things about that I find very interesting. Number one, I hadn't realized this while I was singing and was learning how to sing, but I was told by a musician that this is a very, very unusual kind of singing and a very unusual kind of drum. And I said, why is that? And he said, because this is one of the only kinds of instruments where there's more than one person playing the drum. He said, usually there's only one person playing the drum, but here you have maybe 5 or 6, maybe even 8 people all playing the drum at the same time. You're keeping the same rhythm with the drumsticks. And so I said, I never thought about that. I said, but that is kind of unusual to think about it, because I said to myself, now I think of it too. I can't think of another group where you have more than one person playing the drum. But anyhow, when you get together to practice, and when you get together and have a singing group, generally speaking, everyone knows exactly where they're supposed to sit. And they have what's called a lead singer.
Right.
This is a person who starts the song, and this is something that always amazed me. The people at the drum who are singing, they have to listen to the first 3 or 4 vocables to know what song's going to be sung. Okay? They don't have music out there to tell them, okay, we're going to sing this song. You listen to the lead singer. The lead singer starts the song, and from those 3 or 4 vocables, then the rest of you know what song he's going to sing. So he starts the song off, and then everyone joins in. But usually, as I said before, everyone knows where they're going to be seated at the drum. Okay? So when there's a new singer that comes in, question is, where do I sit? And I think that's the whole idea of the play. The whole idea of what is going on here is that they were trying to decide how do we deal with this question?
And the other thing is that the drum, in and of itself, is an energy, like an entity. The people around the drum, they're also called the drum. They're all together. They're all one energy. And that's why they need to drum together. So they all have that, now our minds are one kind of thing.
Yeah, the other thing I think that people don't realize, just like any other kind of instrument or anything else, you have to practice. You have to rehearse, you have to rehearse, you have to rehearse to make sure that everyone is playing the drum at the same time. Everyone knows where to stop. Everyone knows where to give the emphasis on the different parts. So it's something that takes time, just like anything else. It takes time to practice and to practice and to practice. And I think the other thing with Matoaka illustrated today, just singing that song and knowing where these movements come in and what they represent, this takes a lot of time to learn, a lot of time to practice to get it exactly right. And with these kinds of songs and these kinds of dances, it's extremely important to get it all correct. Because if it isn't done exactly the way it's supposed to be done, that means your prayers are not going to be answered. I think that's something else a lot of people don't understand.